his brother and his wife Sita went away from Ayodhya, and the residents of Ayodhya followed them out of love. And each night when Lord Ramachandra would stop and camp, and the residents of Ayodhya would stop and camp nearby, and then they would follow them the next day. They were not interested in living without Lord Ramachandra. They had no intentions of going back, or they just were going to follow him wherever he went. So one night, Lord Ramachandra, in the middle of the night, he woke up Lakshman. Well, Lakshman didn't sleep, so he spoke with Lakshman. He said, "There's no way we're going to be able to convince them to go back. So best thing is we leave now while they're sleeping." And they had access to not Sumitra, but the chariot driver of Dasharath had gone with them with the chariot. So Ramachandra asked him to take them away. The three of them got on the chariot and he drove very quickly, and he used all kinds of tricks going in the water so they wouldn't be able to trace his route. So when the residents of Ayodhya woke up the next morning, they tried their best to follow the tracks, but they got lost, so they just went back. Then, after some time, Ramachandra and party they were walking into the forest, and back in Ayodhya, not too long afterwards, King Dasharath died out of separation from Lord Ramachandra. He felt so sorry about the whole situation. It was devastating for him. And the news was brought to Bharat. Bharat was Lord Ramachandra's brother, and Bharat was the son of Kaikeyi, the queen of Dasharath, who had instigated this banishment. So Bharat was very upset at the loss of his father, and he was, by the way, extremely angry with his mother. He renounced her. He said, "You're not my mother." It was, so she found out. Kaikeyi ended up, nobody agreed with her. It was just her and Mantra who had come up with this plan. Nobody was pleased. Her son was not pleased. The husband was not pleased. No one was pleased. So Bharat decided to go at the request of all the residents of Ayodhya and bring Ram back. Now that Dasharath had died, there was no king. Ram was supposed to be the king, but this mishap took place. So Bharat went out to find Ram and bring him back. So when he was coming, Lakshman, passionate, he said, "Look, Bharat's coming. He wants to probably fight us and finish us off." But Lord Ramachandra said, "That's not Bharat. Certainly he didn't come for that purpose." So finally, when Bharat and Ram met, it was a beautiful display of brotherly love, highest form of love. Bharat explained that he had nothing to do with it, his mother's misbehavior. He would never rule the kingdom as long as Ramachandra was present. So he had come to bring him back to Ayodhya to become the king. So Lakshmana was pleasantly surprised to see the wonderful mood of his brother. But Ramachandra was firm. He said, I'm not going back. I've already, on the request of my father, I've taken up this. I'll be going back in 14 years. But in the meantime, you should rule. Bharat said, I can't rule. So there was a resolution. The resolution was, Bharat said, here, step in these shoes, sandals. Lord Ramachandra stepped in them. And he took those sandals, put them on his head, and said, I shall take these back to Ayodhya and put your sandals on the throne, and you will be the king of Ayodhya, and I will assist in the administration. I'll live outside in a little hut. And that's what he did. He went back with Lord Ramachandra's sandals, put them on the throne. He lived in a little hut, and he was living such an austere life. He was just taking a little rice cooked in cow urine. That was what he was surviving on. And somehow or other, he helped manage the kingdom under Lord Ramachandra's guidance. So that summarized the situation with Ayodhya. Now it was stable. And the party kept traveling, and then they entered a place called Chitrakoot. And there was a Rakshashi. She was the sister of Ravana. And she was a hideous man-eater, but she had mystic powers, so she could present herself in any form she wanted. So when she saw these two handsome young men, Rama and Lakshman, she transformed herself into a beautiful woman. And she went before, and when she saw Ramachandra, she was captivated by his beauty. And she frankly proposed that we should be married. We're fit for each other. And Ramachandra said, my dear maiden, thank you very much for your proposal, but I'm already married and I've taken a vow, Ekapatni Vrata, that I will only have one wife, so I'm not going to accept any other wives. Although a king could accept many wives. And he knew the law, he knew the rule of Kshatriyas, so he could have accepted her, but he didn't because he had taken this vow. That vow was one of the most important that he displayed to establish the principle of a first-class king. He's so concerned about the well-being of his citizens that he forgoes his own pleasures. So he only accepted one wife, Sita. But he mentioned with Lakshman, perhaps he didn't take such a vow. So she said, all right, Lakshman. And Lakshman said, well, but I'm just a servant of my master. Perhaps if you... They were joking with her. They weren't interested at all. And she realized that they were joking. And not only that, but that it was because of this Sita, she was blocking Shurpanakha, that was her name, from succeeding with Ram. So her nature, you can't hide your nature. It came out. And she became angry and she wanted to try to kill Sita, so she attacked her. And Lord Ramachandra told Lakshman to do something. So he took his sword and cut off her nose and ears, Shurpanakha. And she left crying and bleeding. It so happened that two of her brothers, Kara and Dushana, were ruling that area. And they had 14,000 Rakshasa army. And they attacked Lord Ramachandra. But they were all defeated by Ram and Lakshman. Then one of them, Anukamana, he escaped. He wasn't killed. And he went back to Ravana and told Ravana the story. That your brothers, Kara and Dushana, have been slain. All the soldiers have been killed. Ravana was furious. Who has done this? And then he found out it was Ramachandra, a mere human. So that soldier who had survived, he gave him the advice, Ravana. He said, you won't be able to defeat Ram in battle, in my opinion. But if you somehow or other steal away his wife, either he'll die of anguish at the loss of his wife, or he'll be so weak that you'll be able to defeat him in battle. So Ravana liked that idea. He heard that Sita was more beautiful than any Apsara or any woman in the three worlds. So he thought, this is a good idea. And he went to visit Maricha. Maricha was the son of Tataka, that witch that was, we discussed yesterday, was in a battle with Rama and Lakshman. So Maricha was already defeated by Rama in battle. He was thrown, I think it was many thousands of miles by a weapon. So he realized that he was no match for Ram. And he was living a simple life of asceticism in the forest. Ravana came to visit him, and Ravana proposed his idea, I need your help to abduct Ram's wife. And he told him his plan. And Maricha said, that's a bad plan, won't work, Ramachandra's too powerful. And then Ravana told him what he wanted him to do was lure Ram away from the hermitage where they were staying by transforming himself into a magical deer. And when Ram went after him to try to capture him, then Ravana would abduct Sita. So Maricha said no. And Ravana said, if you don't do it, I'll kill you. So Maricha was faced with two options. Either he does it and he's killed by Ram, or he doesn't do it and he's killed by Ravana. He chose the first. Better to be killed by Rama than Ravana. So he said, okay, I'll do it. So he went, he transformed himself into a beautiful golden deer, and he went before Sita. Sita became captivated. And Sita told Ram, my dear Lord, could you get that deer for me as a pet? I would really be happy. I'm out here in the forest for 14 years, you know. It would really be nice to have a little pet deer. So Ramachandra said, I don't know if that deer is for real. It looks somewhat odd. Doesn't look like a normal deer, some magical thing. But anyway, I'll do it. He didn't like to deny his wife. He said, I'm going to catch the deer. Lakshman, you stay here and protect Sita. Don't leave under any circumstance. You understand? Lakshman said, yes. So he went, he chased the deer, and of course Maricha was mystic powers. He could move very quickly, and he dragged him a long ways away from the hermitage. But finally, Lord Ramachandra got him with an arrow. He realized this was no ordinary deer. So he shot him with an arrow, and when Maricha was shot, just before he left his body, he cried out in a voice that sounded exactly like Ramachandra, Hanuman, Sita, help. And it was so loud that Sita and Lakshman heard it. And Lakshman didn't do anything. Sita said, what are you doing? He said, that couldn't have been Ram. Ram, no one can defeat Ram. It was obviously Ram's voice, she said. Why aren't you going? Go help him. He needs your help. No, that wasn't Ram. So they had this debate, and finally she became really disturbed and upset. She said, have you been waiting for this time all along so you could enjoy me? And now your brother is in difficulty? And she accused him like that. And he said, mother, he always thought of her as his mother. He never even looked at her, anything above her feet. He didn't even know what she looked like. He was so chaste. But she accused him like this. So she made different threats, as a woman might do, like, if you don't go, I'll kill myself, whatever. So he was very concerned. He said, all right, I'll go. And he drew a circle around the hermitage, and he said, but stay inside this part, this will protect you. So he went to look for Ram, and she stayed, and then Ravana, who was watching, entered, but he also had mystic powers. He didn't appear with his 10 heads, he appeared as a sage, as a saintly person. And she, of course, was from the finest tradition of respecting sages. She said, my dear sage, what can I do for you? Gave him water, everything. And so the discussion went on. He asked who she was. Then he asked her to come outside, come where he was and bring her some food. And she said, I have some food, but please come over here and take it. He said, bring it to me, otherwise I'm leaving, and I'll curse you and your family and everything. So she was told not to go outside that circle, but she did it anyway. She went out and gave him, and then he captured her, kidnapped her. There was a struggle, and he took off. But previously, when they were in the forest earlier, before they had reached Chitrakoot, they had come across a vulture named Jatayu. Jatayu was a friend of Dasharath. He was a relative of Garuda, the great eagle carrier. And he had offered to act as an assistant to them. He would travel along with them, and if they ever were out searching for food, he would protect Sita. He's a great fighter also, like Garuda. Not quite as great as Garuda, but great. So they accepted his offer, and he was traveling with him. So when Ravana came and abducted her, he was staying nearby. He noticed, and he attacked Ravana with his wings, talons. And there was a great fight. He was a great fighter. But Ravana had his Pushpaka airplane that he had taken from Kuvera when he had defeated Kuvera. Kuvera was a brother of his. Kuvera had this amazing spaceship or airship that could travel anywhere. And it was run by the mind of the driver. The mind just decided where it wanted to go and the plane would go there. So he had this plane. And as he was going off with Sita, Jatayu attacked and there was a fight. But finally, Ravana took his sword and cut off his wings and he fell down. Jatayu. He didn't die, but he was lying there, dying. Then finally, when Lakshman and Ram met, Ram was really unhappy to see Lakshman. Why are you here? I told you not to leave. Lakshman told the story. So they ran back. No Sita. Scuffle marks. Then Ravana was overwhelmed that Sita had been kidnapped, had been abducted. So they started searching as best they could. They came across the dying Jatayu, and Jatayu told the story that it was Ravana or it was someone, and he tried his best. And then Lord Ramachandra performed the last rites for Jatayu, as a son would do for his father, because he was a friend of Lord Ramachandra's father. Then they kept searching. Jatayu had given him some direction that they had gone in, so they were searching in that direction. Now Ravana has Sita, and he takes her back to Lanka, Sri Lanka, city of gold. It's said that Lanka is 100 yojanas from the lowest part of India, Cape Comorin. So that 800 miles, if you go to the map and you map out 800 miles from that place, Nicobar Islands is 800 miles. It's up a little north. We don't know for sure if that was it, but it doesn't, according to the scriptures, it was an 800-mile distance. The present day Lanka is how far away from, present day Lanka is how far? 60? 60 compared to 800, so. Anyway, he went back to his kingdom, city of gold. It's said that there was a connection with Brazil, an underground connection, and they were taking gold from Brazil through this underground tunnel and bringing it back to Lanka. So he took Sita, and of course she was not happy, and he wanted her to become his wife, and she refused. She insulted him, and he put her in some kind of controlled environment where she couldn't leave. And he kept trying again and again. He didn't force her he didn't force himself on her. And the reason for this is that formerly, when he was traveling once, he used to force any woman. If she wouldn't agree to come with him, he would force her to go on under his enjoyment. And he didn't care whether they were married or not married. It didn't matter to him. He was so powerful that he would take anyone. So one time he found a beautiful woman, and he wanted to take her, and she said, "No, I'm your nephew's." She was the wife of Kuvera's son. So that means she was the nephew of Ravana. So she explained this. "Don't think of me like that. I'm married to your nephew." Ravana said, "I don't care about these moralities." And he forcibly raped her. And he was cursed by Kuvera's son, the husband, that if he ever forces himself on a woman again, he will die. And even though Ravana was so powerful, he learned of this curse, and from that time on, he never forced it because he didn't want to take a chance. He felt that he could win over anyone, any woman by his own strength and charms and what have you. So he would not force himself on her, but he threatened her and tried to bribe her and lure her in so many different ways. But she was not interested in him or his wealth or anything. And his wife, Ravana, his queen was Mandodari, and she advised him, "Why do you want Sita? You're just going to get into a big problem with Sita's husband. Better to give her back." But he wouldn't give her back. He was attached to winning her over. Meantime, Lord Ramachandra was searching, and they met Hanuman. Hanuman was of the Vanara race, which was monkeys, but they were not ordinary monkeys. There was a plan. When the Lord comes to the material world, he doesn't come alone. He brings some of his associates with him to participate in the pastime. So it was instructed that the demigods, although they could not come personally, but they would have union with some monkeys, something like that. And their offspring would be these Vanaras, and they would be very powerful, and they would be able to help in the fight against Ravana. So Hanuman was one of those. His father was the wind god, demigod Vayu, and his mother was Anjali. Yeah. So that was his heritage. And they were all powerful like that. Not as powerful as Hanuman, but. So Hanuman told Lord Ramachandra, they met, and Lord Hanuman accepted him as his eternal master. And he took him to meet Sugriva. Sugriva was the king of the monkeys. And the story goes that Sugriva had a brother named Bali, and they were ruling, but Bali, somehow or other, defeated Sugriva and took his wife and banished him. So he was aggrieved. He had lost his wife. And Ramachandra was aggrieved. He had lost his wife, so they decided to make a friendship. Rama said, "I'll help you get back your wife and your kingdom if you help me get back my wife." So they agreed. They made an agreement. And the first thing that had to be done was Bali had to be defeated. But Sugriva wasn't powerful enough to do it, so Ramachandra had to help. So the plan was that Sugriva and Bali would fight, and if Sugriva couldn't defeat him, if he was losing, then Ramachandra would help. So Ramachandra was behind a tree with his bow and arrows, and Sugriva and Bali were fighting, but Rama couldn't tell which one was which. They looked almost the same. So he didn't want to shoot. So Sugriva came back and he was really upset. He almost did. I'm almost dead. I thought if you weren't going to fight then, if you weren't going to shoot, then why did I do this? You told me you were, Rama told him the story, I just couldn't tell which one you were. So they made another plan that there would be some distinguishing way of being able to tell which one was Sugriva. So then he challenged him again, Bali, and again Bali was pummeling him. This time, Lord Ramachandra shot the arrow and defeated Bali. So then Sugriva became the king he got his army back, he got his wife back. And then it was time for them to help find Sita. So he sent his warriors, monkey warriors out, and not only there were monkeys, but there was the king of the bears, Jambavan. He also was there. There were many warriors. So they were sent out in different directions to find Sita, because they didn't know where she was. So they all went out in different directions, and they were given a certain period of time. They had to be back to report to Sugriva. And they went out, and they found out that Sita actually Hanuman was the one who found her. He went to Sri Lanka and he found her there, and he changed his form from a big monkey to a little monkey so he could be undetected by Ravana. And then he went up. She was sitting in a forest. She was guarded by the female guards. And so the monkey was there, and he jumped into a tree above her, and he began to glorify Lord Ramachandra, beautiful glories of Lord Rama. And she was so happy to hear someone glorifying Lord Ramachandra instead of Ravana, who simply criticized Lord, blasphemed him. But then she thought, this is a trick of Ravana. This is probably Ravana. And then the monkey came down, and she still thought it was Ravana. She said, don't try to fool me. And he said, no, I'm not Ravana. And he convinced her that he was actually Rama's servant. Did he have he had a ring from from Rama. So he showed that ring convinced her that he was genuine. So then she was in bliss. And he told her that Ramachandra is planning to come and rescue you. Don't worry. Everything will be nice. And he said, I jumped here across the sea. That's another story, how there was a competition, who can jump across to Lanka? And the different monkeys said how far they could jump. Someone said, I can jump so many miles, but I won't be able to make it back. Some said, I can get almost there. Only Hanuman would be able to jump there and get back. So he was selected to go. He said, I can jump back, jump on my shoulders, I'll take you back, it'll be over. She declined. She said, no, I should not, it's not proper for me to be touched by another man. my husband will come and save me. So, and then she gave him her ring to take back to Ram to prove that he had actually seen Sita. So he went back, but before he left, he decided to have some transcendental pastime of his own, and he allowed himself to be caught as a monkey. So they brought him before Ravana, and Ravana said, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm Sugriva's army. I'm serving Lord Ramachandra, and you should give back Sita, and if you don't, you'll be destroyed." You know, things that Ravana didn't want to hear. So Ravana said, "Kill him at once." But Vibhishan, the saintly brother of Ravana, said, "You can't do that, he's a messenger. You can't kill a messenger. It's against the rules." He said, "All right, thank you, Vibhishan. Set his tail on fire." So they set his tail on fire, and Hanuman began jumping all over the place in the city of Lanka and setting it on fire. He set the whole place on fire. And then he jumped back across. So that was his parting words for Ravana. Then he went back to Ram and showed him the ring and told him that Sita was still alive. Now they knew where he was, where Sita was, where Ravana was, who the enemy was, and they got together their army, and they decided, well, how are we going to get over there? It's a long ways. Monkeys, do they swim? I don't think they swim very well. That idea wasn't presented that they could swim across. So they decided, first Lord Ramachandra went to the ocean, and he fasted for 3 days, waiting for the ocean god Varuna to come. And after 3 days, still the ocean god didn't come, and Lord Ramachandra was angry. So he began staring at the ocean, and the ocean became so hot that the crocodiles and other big sharks and fish, they were feeling great pain. So finally Varuna came and he humbled himself before Lord Ramachandra. "I'm sorry, I did not know who you were. I'm sorry I didn't properly." So Lord Ramachandra said, "I need to get across to Lanka. How will you help me?" And he suggested that if you put stones in the water, they'll float. You can make a bridge. So that was the help that Varuna gave. He gave that opportunity. So all the Vanaras, they began throwing stones and making this bridge to go across. And you've seen the pictures of that, making this wonderful floating bridge. It reminds me when I go to Guyana, they have a floating bridge, also something made by the British, not made by the monkeys of Ramachandra, but it's not exactly, but it goes several miles across the water, across the river there. Reminds one of Lord Ramachandra. So the bridge was floating. The rocks they were throwing big stones in, and they would put the name. So then they went across, and there was an enormous battle. I won't go into all the details of the battle because of time. But finally, Ravana and all of his family members, they faced Ram and the army of the monkeys, and they were defeated. And Lord Ramachandra rescued Sita from that situation, and after some time they went back to Ayodhya. Lord Ramachandra ki jai! Thank you for participating in that. Now I'd like to ask Sridham Prabhu, our campus director, to speak a little bit about Ramananda Roy Das.
Hare Krishna. We'll take a few moments here remembering Ramananda Prabhuji. He was a disciple of Maharaj Danavir Goswami. He got initiated, I believe, in 2016. And personally, I remember two things very distinctly about him. His ever smiling face. All the time he used to always smile. Number two, he was always enthusiastic, serving, the temple, Gaur-Nitai, and, at the kitchen, everywhere, Kirtan, and so on. Two very great qualities of Vaishnavas and devotees, smiling face and enthusiasm. So, I briefly spoke with his fiancée early this morning. There will be a funeral for him this coming Saturday. I take this opportunity on behalf of Rupanuga Vedic College, as well as Maharaj, to sincerely thank him and his family for all the great services, wonderful services he has done to Gaur-Nitai. And let's say a big Hare Krishna for, him, and wish him best for his spiritual journey. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 says, Na hanyate hanyamane sarire. This body is perishable, but the soul is eternal. There's nothing, no damage happens. And we wish him the best in his spiritual journey. Now we have some very wonderful friends of Ramananda Prabhuji from Baldwin, Lawrence, Kansas. Especially Don and the few others. I would request them to come and share some of their, I believe Don was very close to Ramananda.
Do you want them to come here, or do you want to bring the mic there? Might be easier.
I probably don't need it. My voice carries.
We have people in the kitchen.
We're from Bhaktivan, which is out Baldwin. It's just a small community. We have lots of friends from all over, and Ramananda was one of them. We'd known him for years. One funny thing about him is when he took initiation, came here and took initiation from Swami, he never said a word. He would come every weekend to the programs in Baldwin, I can't say that I've ever met anyone who took studying and took Krishna consciousness quite as seriously as he did. He was always studying and just aware. And one of the things he would do, he asked a lot of questions. And I always was under the impression that this was a man who really didn't need to be asking these questions because he knew the answer. He already had the answer, but he would ask you these questions to get you to engage your mind, and to start developing your own awareness and your own consciousness and your own enlightenment. But he came and would just never said a word, he just disappeared for several months, and then he came back after being, we all discovered, he went and he, did service here at the temple, and he followed Swami and took initiation, and he was really, really happy about that. It was something that he was so humble for so many years that he didn't feel worthy. He didn't feel like he was qualified. When the whole time he was just kidding himself. He was very qualified. So I'm just grateful that, he found mercy here and he took that next step. And I feel pretty confident, he left his body in a good state. You know, his mind was where it needed to be. You know, he's definitely advancing. And he's going to be missed. You know, one of the things we used to do whenever we would meet up at a program or whatever, we would check in with one another. You know, both our bodies have been pretty beat up through the years. You know, he had a lot of back problems. He was always in pain, you know. And he always made the comment to me, you know, that being with the Lord couldn't come soon enough, you know, just moving on and having that blissful opportunity to spend, you know, your life with Krishna, you know, as a servant to Krishna. And it wasn't that he had a desire to leave his body or to move on, you know. He wanted to perfect his service. But he did have his issues. He went through a lot in life. You know, he overcame a lot of major obstacles and a lot of trials. Suffered a lot of loss. The loss of his daughter, which was tragic. You know. So, I mean, I bow to Krishna, and I just am grateful that he doesn't have to suffer, because he was in a lot of pain, you know, at the end. And that's about where I'm at, and I don't know if anybody else.
Yeah, I'll say something. Man, the thing I really liked about Robert is every time I would see him at the program, he would come up and be like, "What's up, my brother from another mother?" And he was just super friendly like that. I don't know, he was just always smiling, and it was just always really good to see him, you know. He was just a really happy dude, and he'd just make you happy to be around him. And he was a really good dude too. Like he was the kind of guy, like I would call him and be like, "Hey, I'm in Topeka and I gotta be in Lawrence by 2 p.m. And he'd be like, "All right, I'll see you in an hour." And he'd be there for me like that, you know, and you know, when nobody else would do that for me, you know, and man, yeah, he's really gonna be missed. So, do you want to say anything about him, Mom?
It's nice to be able to be here. I had never gotten the chance to see the temple here, to be here. I had intended to come for quite a while, and I live at Bhaktivan in Lawrence, and Ramananda lived in the apartment below us for quite a while. And it was kind of funny because he had told me later after he moved out how we had been, he felt like we'd been so noisy being in the apartment above him, but he never would say anything about that, and I wasn't aware of that. And I said, "Why didn't you tell us that? Why didn't you talk to us about that?" And he just said, "Oh, you know, I just, it was just something that he felt like he had to deal with." And that was so like him, I thought, because like Don was saying, he had so many extreme trials, and we were around him at the time that his that he lost his daughter, and it was, I was just so impressed with the way that he dealt with that and with his cancer. He was so just very tolerant, I thought, of those difficult circumstances, and always was able to see and express to others just his understanding and of the eternal nature of our souls, and so and just always was perseverant about trying to learn about Krishna. And I loved the way that he said Krishna, and I can still see his beautiful, shining, smiling face with just as he would sit and play the mridangas and chanting, and so happy, such a wonderful person, and yeah, we'll all miss him, and yet are grateful that he was in the consciousness that he was when he left his body, and hope that he's playing with the gopis and is with Krishna.
I knew Robert, that's how I always knew him, by his name Robert, since almost more than 10 to 12 years. I used to go to Bhaktivan on weekends, and he used to always be there. And he would always greet me with, hi, Sapna. He would give me a big hug. He was there even when I was pregnant with my daughter, and when my daughter was born, he would hold her. He has hugged my children. He would talk to them, love them. He was really friendly, a warm, very warm person. And when I got initiated, he said, Sapna, I want to get initiated also, and I can't wait for that day to come. And he didn't tell me when he actually got initiated. I found out later, and he was totally in bliss. And he was like, I found my spiritual master, and he's in Kansas City. He was extremely grateful and thrilled with that. And he did service over here, and when I found out he had cancer for the first time, he didn't tell me, and I said, how do you feel? How do you deal with the pain? Because he said he went through surgery, and he said, when you chant and you read the Bhagavatam, Sapna, the pain goes away. And I don't feel the pain. I've dealt with the pain so much better because I've been chanting and reading the Bhagavatam. And he said the same thing when he lost his daughter. He would always sit and talk to me after the program, and we would visit for a long time after the program, just talking about what was going on in his life. He had a lot of ups and downs, but he didn't complain. He smiled about it. After I started coming to RVC, it's been almost 2 years. I didn't go to the farm. I was coming here, but he still kept in touch with me. He would message me regularly on the phone, and we would be in touch with each other. And he would check on me and my kids and my husband, my family, and we wished each other all holidays. So I'm going to miss him a lot. He was a dear friend of mine, very dear friend. So I'm going to miss Robert.
This is a remembrance from His Grace Jugal Kishore Prabhu, who was the temple president.
Dhruvananda or Jugal Kishore? Dhruvananda or Jugal Kishore?
This one's from Kishore Dongre, that's it?
Yeah, that's Dhruvananda.
Dhruvananda, sorry, Dhruvananda Prabhu. He was practically the only Krishna devotee in Topeka. I had known him since 2010. He was very Krishna conscious even before his initiation. I was working in Topeka in 2015. I would visit him every week at his home. He always liked to do kirtan, play mridanga, and read Krishna books. He was very conversant with all Krishna books. He wanted to develop a preaching center in Topeka. Since in Kali Yuga you get benefit of pious activities even if you do them in mind, Ramananda Roy certainly got rewarded by Krishna for developing a preaching center in Topeka in his mind, although it never manifested in reality. Seeing his sincerity and devotion in Krishna, I invited him to stay at RVC and get Danavir Maharaj's guidance. Soon after his initiation, he became temple commander at RVC and did several improvements. Krishna will certainly have a special place/service for him in his future life. Let us all together loudly chant, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, for his continued journey back to Krishna. And just some personal words for myself. When he came, I've been doing a lot of traveling since I came to join the temple here. And I remember we would see him every now and then when we spent a couple days here. And a couple things that really stuck out from my association with him was, like it's been mentioned, he was always in a happy, jolly mood and always doing service. And particularly, I was always enchanted by his kirtans. He would like to lead the Guru Puja kirtan, and then he would sing to Gornitai. And he'd always sing this melody that was really, really enchanting for me. And I'm really surprised to hear that he had cancer and this happened. I'm really surprised by that. So,
Hare Krishna Vaishnavas, let us all please remember Ramananda Prabhuji in our prayers and wish him well in his spiritual journey. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
We'll have Aarti now in a couple of seconds, I believe.